go, guys. Set. Welcome to Disclosure Network New York. Today, Sunday, May 19th, 2019. I'm Nick Carole, dnny Director and co-founder. dnny is a grassroots organization now celebrating our 18th year of providing 2 meetings a month throughout the year in Manhattan. We focus on cutting-edge UFO, ET issues, paranormal phenomenon, and many related important issues that back in the mainstream will not be covered in any way. That's our job, to uncover what's really going on. In other words, who or what is pulling the strings. Our members do intense investigative research into these various topics and share that information with the group at our meetings, as well as for our internet followers on YouTube. And we have quite a number of YouTubes out there right now, and we've heard from people in various parts of the world saying, oh my God, what a group. Our motto right from day one was, quote, connecting the dots to seek truth, unquote. We have available to everyone worldwide the dnny News Blast email service focusing on the topics of special interest, and that's totally free. Go to our website, and I'll give you that website right now. It's www.dnny.info, and type in your email address and click. You'll then be connected with everything that's going on with our group on emails, and they are as cutting edge as it can get. Okay, now then, our featured guest speaker today for the first part of our group is Carole. Carole, help me with the last name.
Carole Linda Gonxalez.
Thank you, Carole. A very warm welcome to you.
Hi.
It's great to have you here, and I'm so happy that you're going to present this group. Just a quick couple of background things, Carole. How did you get interested in our focus today? What prompted you?
Well, years ago I had a sighting, so I became interested in learning more about different people who had sightings. I've always had some psychic sense, so I'm always interested in psychic ability. And I was part of the Edgar Casey Association for a long time, where I met Betty, who's here, and Ingo Swann actually attended a couple of those meetings a long time ago. Yes, I didn't know much about him then, so he was just someone they were, oh, Ingo Swann is here. And I said, who is that? Well, my talk, I thought I would talk in terms of people who don't know who Ingo Swann was and why they should know, especially if they're interested in paranormal topics, in UFOs, in government activities. That is my focus. I did not know that there are people who are going to be here who actually knew him. So we're going to get more interesting things. We're going to learn more about him at the end of my talk.
Exactly,
Yes.
And you know, when I found out that Mark and Phyllis, who was going to be doing the second half, actually knew him as a very dear and close friend and worked with him, and I said, is there any way that you could come to us and on this meeting and share with us some of your personal experiences? And they said that we're honored, we'll do it, and I was thrilled.
That's
so
great.
with you doing the first part, which is great, and then having them fill in those spaces, I think it's going to be one of the best meetings we've had.
I hope so.
We'll go right ahead, Carole. If I
Sure.
can do anything to help, let me know.
Sure. I guess most people know who he is and why they should know what he did. So this is going to be a little redundant, but I'm going to go through it anyway because that's how I prepared this presentation. So here he is, Ingo Swann, remote viewer. You can see his face. And now we're coming to Jack Anderson.
Oh, can we get the lights? Oh, can you see without the?
Yeah, I can see with them.
Okay, try the light now. Just thank you very much for that. There we go. Jim, is that okay, focus-wise? Are we okay? Okay. Good.
Now, Jack Anderson is of importance because he is a credible person. When I was doing some research, I came upon articles that were written by people who thought, this is all pseudoscience. This never happened. The government was never involved. It's a joke. It's a scam. So things are changing. Well, no, it's not. So if you look at the work that Jack Anderson did, he won the Pulitzer Prize in 1972 for reporting on secret American policy decision-making between the U.S. and Pakistan during the Indo-Pakistani War in 1972. Now there we have the secret government programs. He also did quite a bit of work on exactly that, secret government programs. He wrote, his columns were Psychic Task Force, hard at work, Pentagon silent on ESP warfare, and CIA interest in ESP growing. Now, if you have someone that credible actually writing about this, there must be something to it. So people shouldn't be laughing. In June, you can follow what I wrote, I'll read it. June 1981, the House of Representatives Committee on Science and Technology issued a study called Survey of Science and Technology Issues Present and Future. It contains this comment: recent experiments in remote viewing and other studies in parapsychology suggest that there exists an interconnectedness of the human mind with other minds and with matter. This interconnectedness would appear to be functional in nature and amplified by intent and emotion. And that was reported by John White, director of Noetic Sciences, founded by former astronaut Edgar Mitchell. So, excuse me. This is an article. I thought I'd do a little research, and I found an article published by the New York Times on exactly this topic. Can't read it. I didn't want to pay for it, so I just got an archive, but I do have the text, which reported that the Pentagon had spent millions of dollars, according to new reports, on secret projects to investigate ESP. It goes on further to talk about how it was spending money and other things of that nature. Now, we can recall that in December 2017, the interest was revived again. People laugh at this, but here it is, 1984, it was reported. Again, 2017, reported again. They're going to continue laughing. They don't believe it, so you have to keep reminding them that this is real. And more concern to many of us who are of spiritual nature is that the Pentagon wants to use it, ESP, for wartime. They want to militarize these senses, which are spiritual and have been part of spiritual religion and practices through the ages. One thing I noticed in one of Ingo Swann's writings was that he was concerned about his book penetration. He had some trouble publishing it, I understand, but he wanted to publish it. I'm sure you will comment further on that later. And his concern was that the practice of ESP was being suppressed. In other words, the government doesn't want you to believe that such a thing exists, because then they can't control you. You can see and you can learn. You'll know what they are doing. They won't be able to pull a fast one on you. But since it's been part of spiritual practices for ages, I've got news for them. It's not going to work, because these practices have survived. They'll go underground. People will continue to develop them. Best example is the religion of Santeria, which came over here with the slaves. They kept it underground, but it's still alive today. That's how these things work. A little bit more about Ingo Swann. This is Russell Targ. You can read for yourself. American parapsychologist and author. He and, I'll go quickly to the next person. Hal Puthoff. Sorry, my slideshow doesn't work very well. They were both working with the CIA at Stanford University, and they set up the Stargate project together with Ingo Swann, where they worked on psychic development, of course, and worked on the different projects that you've come to hear of. I know John Noble a few weeks ago talked about Pat Price, another remote viewer that was very successful in this program. Let's go to the East Coast now. How did Ingo Swann get involved with them? Well, you have different people. Gertrude Schmeidler, He worked with her at City College. I was at City College at the time, but again, I don't know who these people were or what they were doing. She was a psychology teacher. Carlos Osis from the American Society for Psychical Research. They all worked with him. And then there was a man called Cleveland Clive Baxter, who was an NYPD person, worked with the CIA as well, and was very involved with, he had a theory that plants can feel, that they can think. And he was also interested in psychics. So Ingo Swann was a well-known psychic of the day. And he recommended, I understand, Russell Targ, no, it was Hal Puthoff called him and recommended Ingo Swann to visit Stanford, and he began working together with them there.
I got a comment, Carole, just briefly, that you're showing on the screen for our group here one of the paintings that Ingo Swann did.
Yes, yes.
And I got to say that when I started looking at the paintings, I just couldn't believe how incredibly layered and amazing they are, not only from a skill point of view, an artist skill point of view, but what they're trying to show us. I just am in awe of that. His work, I know, is at the Leslie Lohman Art Gallery. They have some, I talked to these people, and they said that they have some of his work. I asked the director, but unfortunately the director couldn't come today, because I thought that would be an Lorraine, are you okay?
I'm good.
All right. But Carole, don't forget you got some water there, and talking can give you cotton mouth. So, okay, go ahead.
I'm not there yet.
All right, fine.
Okay, so Ingo Swann was also a very spiritual man, and he used his skills in developing with his art, his creativity. Here is a Nora chart that he developed for Edgar Cayce, for the as a painting for the ARE. A Nora chart came from the readings of Edgar Cayce, and they showed images of things that were very important to the person who was being read. Like at the top, you'll see the all-seeing eye. You'll see images from different lives, things in those lives that would help him in this life. And he did a number of readings like that. So this is his example of Cayce's aura chart.
Also, Carole, in reference to his work, he worked very large, didn't he? It seems like the paintings were fairly, not small works, but really very large works.
Yeah, I found some pictures of him standing in front of them, but I was limited to what I could use. You may have other pictures to show.
Martin Phillips has some also incredible shots.
Yeah. So,
He made small pictures too.
yeah, we look forward to seeing those. So here's the aura chart. A little closer, you'll see the all-seeing eye. You'll see a scene from one of his lives. He must have been in another life. He must have been a seafarer. I'm not sure what that is, but it looks like the Libra, the sign of Libra, though he's not a Libra, the sign of Gemini, the sigil for Mercury. That's essentially an aura chart. So he was a very spiritual man. So here we have someone who was spiritual, gifted, and brought attention to him from the government, especially when he decided to do a remote viewing of the planet Jupiter, where he predicted before we had any evidence of what was out there that Jupiter had a ring and some other features. Eventually, the government sent a probe out there, and lo and behold, there it was. So he attracted the attention of government people.
And isn't that true that when someone comes up with some amazing cutting-edge technology, that some elements of the governments immediately jump on that and think in terms of weaponry or how they, it's like that goes on all the time. And it certainly was an example, again, with Ingo Swann, same thing happened.
So this is his book, of a very interesting experience he had. But he didn't publish it right away. He published it years later. He wasn't supposed to say anything about it, but he wanted to publish it. Perhaps we'll hear from the Brinkerhoffs a bit more about why he wanted to publish this. But for those that don't know about it, it tells a very strange tale of how the government contacted him. And I want to read a little bit from his book. Now, this is not Ingo Swann. This is me. This is a dream I had after I read this book. And after Tom presented that piece from Roswell, I had this dream. It was very vivid. I'm not an artist, so this is the best I could render it. And you'll see when I read, those are supposed to be these. I dreamt there were portals where flying saucers would go. I read about this road going into this building in the distance, and suddenly in my dream I felt the alert that, oh my God, they're seeing me. So I took an exit and woke up.
Wow.
That's my dream. I thought I'd add it there because it was so not as beautiful as Ingo Swann's work, but certainly it meant something to me.
You know, we're going to, during the summer, we're going to have at least one meeting on dreams. And we're going to ask everybody in the room that attends the meeting to share with us their dreams. I find that a fascinating subject, as I'm sure many do too. And sometimes those dreams are so, like you're saying, vivid and so layered. And you think, what in the world is going on? Is it coming from other places too? Or is it my brain doing this layered almost presentation? And I've had some real amazing ones lately. So that's a subject I want to really get into this summer. I hope you guys can come to that meeting. Okay.
Okay, so our story begins in 1975. Ingo Swann gets a phone call. And on the other end of the phone, there's a man called, a functionary from D.C., Washington, D.C. calls him. And he tells him, Mr. Axelrod is going to telephone you. If you can manage to do so, would you try to do whatever he asks and ask no questions yourself? After a pause, I asked, well, who is this Mr. Axelrod? Now, there was a pause at the end of his telephone, at the end of the telephone. Then, I can't tell you because I don't know myself, but it's important, very urgent that you agree to do what he asks. I can tell you nothing more, so please do not ask. Just do what he wants. And whether you do or do not, we will never refer to this conversation again. I must ask you in friendship never to refer to me about this in any way. It's kind of scary, I think. And after my friend expressed passing interest in how I was doing, he quickly hung up on me. So that contact went by, and he kind of forgot about it because he didn't get any call about this for another 3 or 4 weeks. So despite the alleged urgency, the mysterious Mr. Axelrod did not telephone until about 4 weeks later. And when he did, it was 3 a.m. in the morning. The call jolted me out of a sound sleep. After we got straightened out, he asked, can you get to D.C. by noon today? I realize this is short notice, but we would be appreciative if you can. We'll reimburse you. I was just about to ask why I should get to D.C. by noon when I remembered what my friend had said. No questions. So I would take an air shuttle and get there. Good, Mr. Axelrod said. We cannot meet you at the airport. Are you familiar with the Museum of Natural History of the Smithsonian? Yes. Good. As soon as you arrive, go stand near the elephant in the central rotunda. But how will I know who you are? You don't need to know. We know who you are.
Oh.
Okay? So he gets to D.C., and he's waiting. He hears a voice behind him. Mr. Swann. I turned and looked into burning green eyes, and it was a young military guy. What was more astonishing was the fact there were two of them that looked almost exactly alike. Everybody was walking around me, but okay, that was my contact. So they take him to a car, driven by a woman who didn't even look at him, take him somewhere else, put a hood over his head, a hood, take him somewhere else. He doesn't know where he's going, he doesn't know what's happening, gets there, hood comes off, hello, I'm Mr. Maxwell. So then begins a series of experiments. And every day they talk, they give him coordinates, places on Earth, other cities. They do everything as he's used to. He said despite the urgency and the secrecy, it was pretty much what he usually does wherever he goes and does this kind of work. But then one day, Mr. Axelrod asks him, Ingo, do you know about the moon? The moon? He wants me to go to the moon, Ingo Swan says. Well, I know it's there. It's a dead satellite. It has craters and mountains, if that's what you mean. Have you studied the moon? Gone psychically to it? No, we've never tried the moon. So there it goes. He says, I guess they're interested in building bases on the moon, something of that nature. He wasn't really sure, but he knew that the $1,000 a day that he had arranged with him were real. He was getting that, and he could use the money. And as he had done in the Jupiter project, he asked Mr. Axelrod to find out where the moon was in his monthly cycle, which is to say, its present relationship to Earth and the sun. The moon is full, just setting in the west. Will that do? I hope so. So, except for voicing the lunar coordinates when asked for them, Mr. Axelrod was not to make any verbal inputs. So there he goes. He settled back and tried to get a sense of the Earth being between the sun and the moon, and slowly images began to rise up in his mind. He could see the Earth, its curvature. He had already learned from his efforts to psychically get to Jupiter that the sun looks much smaller to his senses, psychic senses, than it does when we look at it from the Earth. In any event, he tried to head away from the sun towards the moon. Now this looked larger than it does when eyeball it in pieces. It's dark here. He's speaking to Mr. Axelrod. It's dark here. Why is that? A rhetorical question. Please do not answer. Darkness. And then slowly, as if adjusting to night vision, I could begin to perceive formations and realize what had happened. This coordinate, it's on the dark side of the moon. I began trying to make sense of the impressions I was acquired. He could see cliffs. He looked around. There was dark rock. There was whitish sand, fluffy kind of sand. Patterns began to appear in his mind. Axelrod interrupted, but he wasn't supposed to, but he adjusted with him. Now he adjusted to that. So he closed his eyes again. The images kept coming through. There were dunes. There wasn't supposed to be any wind on the moon. Is there? No atmosphere? No. Let's take a break. Am I mistaken, Axelrod says? Well, I went on. Says, I just wanted to take a break. And he went on, went back into his images. Then he started to see rows of large tractor tread marks that he didn't understand. How could this be? There's something I don't understand there. He was silent. Axelrod says, he says to Axelrod, do you want, well, am I supposed to see metals or something here? He's asking, what is he supposed to see? It's kind of shiny. There's a quality to it. He said, no, we can go on to the next coordinate. So they kept working, and he kept talking about the images that he saw there. Finally, he comes to this place that's a crater, and there's a strange green haze in that crater, like a light of some sort. After a moment, Axelrod kept prodding him now. What else do you see? Well, I don't know exactly what I'm looking at, says Ingo Swan. I guess I see lights. They're giving off a green light. They're lights like football antennas, high. arenas high up, banks of them, towers. He saw towers. And he saw, what is this? Why is this there? Bridges, all kinds of structures that would be made by a human, a person, another being, and he didn't know. So he sketched what he saw, and there's sketches of that in this book, which I can't reject, sadly, but maybe we will. He finally came to a realization. He said, is there something that I'm supposed to be seeing here? He asked Axelrod. No answer came from him, but he kept going. Have the Russians built a moon base? Are there people here? So he keeps, oops. So he keeps asking questions, and then he suddenly realizes, you mean, am I assumed this is not our stuff? This is not from Earth? These are not people from Earth? He's shocked. There's somebody else on the moon? He keeps looking. Now, he gets to, there's landscapes and different things, and he goes back to this green light. There were nets over craters, houses. He's seeing so many things. Then he finds a place where there are humans working butt naked, he said, working on some project. And he's shocked. What could this be? So he's looking, and he sees that one of them is looking back at him and talking about him as if they know he's there. And Axelrod says, get away, go away from that place. So he assumed they must be psychic, and they must know that I am here. Interesting. So that ended up, that work. He left Mr. Axelrod, who appeared from time to time for a bit longer. And at one point even took him to see, according to this, took him to see a ship as sort of a reward for his work. Then an interesting event occurred a year later or so when he was visiting Los Angeles. He went to visit a friend. He went to visit a friend, and also to Dr. I'm sorry, I wrote her name. Let me find her name here. She actually is George Nuri's aunt, who was involved, Dr. Shafika Karagula. So he was visiting his friend Conrad, and he met with this doctor, and they were talking about all these paranormal events. That's what they love to talk about. And they decided to go shopping to make a wonderful gourmet meal. So they go to the supermarket, and he's walking through, and suddenly this gorgeous woman, he sees this gorgeous woman by the artichokes. So he sidles up and looks at her. Of course, I'm paraphrasing some of what I read. Looks at her, and she's gorgeous, black hair, and barely wore anything, and was tremendous, 6 inches, just gorgeous. He was just taking a look at her. And then suddenly he writes, my hair started to stand up, and I started to back off. She's an alien, an extraterrestrial. And he started to back up. And to further emphasize that, he saw one of the twins, one of the two military guys that he had first seen. He saw one, and then he saw the other one. And he got out of there very quickly. On his way out, he saw the woman. He was with Conrad, and he said, oh, that's nothing. There are many ETs here in Los Angeles. I guess they're good looking in the movies, I don't know.
Wow.
So that pretty much is what I had presented, because I thought it would be of interest to people, not only to know who he was, what he did, that there was real reporting about this government program, but also to show that there was a spiritual side to him, and that he had this secret that he was waiting to get out for those of us that are interested in UFOs and ETs and extraterrestrials. What a story! And he said, I can't prove it. In his book, he said there's 3 parts to the book. The first part I can't prove, which is what we just went through. The second part are facts about the moon, and the third part are many ideas about his philosophy. So that is my presentation.
Well, guys, please. Mr. Carole, do you want to do a Q&A later?
Sure, if anyone has a
I think that'd
question
be a good
for
idea
me.
that you could all three be here and do the Q&A. So, all right, then we're going to transcend to, now, I want to, because we're going to, Mark and Phyllis, come up here. So you do the intro, and
Okay.
then guys, we're going to stop.
I'll take this
We're going to
down.
stop the recording for a second, so you can come up and set up.
Mark will stand.
So just hang on now, okay? Do you want to unplug that and?
Okay.
Jim, do you want to come back
You
here?
can just let that roll. I can edit out the audio.
Oh, all right.
Don't worry about it.
Betty, could you move a little bit that way? Just scoot it a little bit, because we're going to have to come. Okay, Jim.
So that presentation is ready to roll on this laptop, yes?
It's on there now. It's on there right now. Okay, guys, but you're going to come up here because the microphone is here. So she's going to do her intro, and then we'll stop
And
and
I'll
you'll
move-
come up.
I'll
Okay.
move over.
So all right, so guys are ready. Okay, Carole.
Okay.
Do the intro, and we'll go from there. Okay.
So we have the good fortune of having Mark and Phyllis Brinkerhoff here. They were actually good friends, Ingo Swan, and they'll let you in on more of his life, how he thought, his philosophy. And I guess you worked with him as well on some of these projects. So they were introduced to Ingo by their friend Shala Mattingly at a small dinner party she hosted for this purpose around March 1994. From the moment they met, there was an instant soul connection. Ingo first spoke to Mark about how he knew Mark was a walk-in and how he came into the body replacing another soul that had just left. Also, Ingo mentioned that the baby would have been stillborn. All of that is correct. Ingo smiled with twinkling in his eyes and said to Mark, "Do you ever feel claustrophobic? Because I can see that you had to squeeze all your energy into a tiny baby in your mother's womb. I can see that you are way over 12 feet tall, too, in space." Mark said he was correct and that at times he did feel claustrophobic when in tight places, and he would have a flashback to the time he entered into the body. Ingo also intuitively saw Mark's true self and again said to him, smiling, "You are your own higher self in your body here now." Mark responded, "You can see me through the body here now because most psychics cannot." Ingo answered, "Oh, sweetheart, I can see you right now, and this is you here." Then Ingo pointed to a pastel drawing Mark had made of his oversoul. Mark, Phyllis, and Ingo became fast friends, and they all knew intuitively that they were family. Ingo had been Mark and Phyllis's father in a past life in another galaxy. In the late 1990s, Ingo asked Phyllis to help him replicate all his illustrations and all the covers for 4 of his books he was writing. Phyllis had to precisely duplicate his incredible pencil drawings in black on the computer for production. The first book was published in 2000, and it was called Secrets of Power. The second book was published in 2002, called Secrets of Power 2. The third and fourth books were Reality Boxes and Other Black Holes in Human Consciousness, and the Wisdom category. Mark helped Ingo with final proofing of the books. On May 18, 2012, Mark and Phyllis showed Ingo some of Mark's UFO photography they had just captured near his apartment building and over his block. Ingo loved looking at the pictures, saying, "There they are." Then Ingo asked, "Can I please have some copies? I would like to send them to Jacques Vallée." A few months later, Jacques Vallée called Mark and Phyllis to say how amazing the pictures were and that they reminded him of images a friend of his took in California a year or 2 before. When Ingo went into the hospital on January 31st, 2013, Mark and Phyllis visited him and said their goodbyes that night. They sensed that Ingo knew that he was going home to the Creator soon. He was also having trouble breathing. Ingo passed away that same night at 10:30 p.m. Mark does not channel Ingo because Ingo did not like channelers and felt they were usually being tricked by lower astral entities. But occasionally, when Mark is out of body, he will tune into Ingo from the spaceship and say, "Hi, hi Ingo." There have only been a few times when Ingo sent communication to Mark's oversoul through lucid remote viewing and soul speak or telepathy when Ingo wanted to give Mark and Phyllis some new information. Ingo is working in space as well, and that is where Mark and Ingo meet on the dimensions over the 7th planes of light on one of the teaching spaceships from the Ashtar Intergalactic Command that is visibly orbiting Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Carole. Again, guys.
What's me? Okay, Ingo. Okay, what does everybody think that is? Everybody's looking at a picture of a green object on the screen. Well, tattoo on Ingo's
What's it called?
hand.
It's an Egyptian.
That's what we think it is, right?
A person?
It's a symbol from Ingo's home planet.
Mark, excuse me. Mark, if you were to sit there, could you do what you're saying from there?
Mike will pick it up.
Because that way you'd be so much clearer. The mic is there, so could you sit there?
Here's the mic.
Yeah, right there.
So maybe,
And bring the chair up.
Bring
The chair, bring it up, and then you'll be right where the mic
I'm not
is.
good with sitting.
Yeah, go ahead.
A bunch of stuff there.
Go, go,
Want to
go.
stand here then?
Stand.
Be careful with the mic. All right. Now, really
Now,
loud.
when I wanted to
Mark,
point
really
some for the
loud.
people, I can't go over there and show them some stuff. Well, anyway.
Go ahead.
So that's a tattoo that Ingo had on his hand that he got when he was younger, probably in the military when he was in the Navy. And as in time, it faded a little bit, but you could always see that little notch at the bottom, which we would have thought, oh yeah, that's some kind of an aunt, but no, that wasn't what it was. So he was an author, yes, and a psychic, as we all know, and a microbiologist, and a great self-taught artist. And I am also a self-taught artist, and I jokingly said, like father, like son, right? So Ingo once came to our house when he was working with the books with Phyllis, and we had some giant paintings of unicorns in space and portraits of Pegasus and things that Diane knows us, and she's been there with us. And Ingo walks in and he's like staring at these paintings, and I was like giving his key, and he says, you know, I love the way you paint space. You really got animals. He liked humans. He painted them to you. And I said, gee, I'm glad you like it. You know, oh, great one. You know, his galaxies were amazing to paint and watch. I'm choking up a little because Phyllis and I watched him paint some of the paintings. This is 1994 when we visited him. We had cheese and crackers and wine. Downstairs in his studio basement, that is the Millennium painting, which is roughly maybe 25 feet long. It's a triptych. Off to the, let's see, this painting here is gigantic too, and it will show up in the next couple of slides. But just to see how big this place was, and even behind where the picture's taken, right, Phyllis, you were not by the sofas against the wall. That's even further. So Phyllis took a picture of me standing by the painting just to give people an idea, but I'm not really in front of it. I'm like maybe 4 feet from it, I guess. But to see it close up, the real color like this below is so beautiful. Now he's got in this painting his spaceships. On the left side are spaceships coming in as star shapes. In the center is like similar what I knew when I recognized it as the Star of Bethlehem, which is a spaceship. And then the other ships. Now this is like representing, we used to ask him, well, is this representing the beginning of time, foundation, you know, or what are you showing? He said, well, it's the millennium, like the end of the millennium, right? It's showing the, so that which is coming soon. This is a picture of him painting the painting. So now you get an idea of how big it really is. The panels are triptych. It's huge. That's the painting gateway that was on the wall. In his later years, the painting wasn't there. He had other little paintings, roughly 17 by 14 or so. And this one has little Buddhas in the flames of consciousness and light, and the gateway representing the gateway to consciousness, and his pillars always represent the master flame, the foundations of energy, as he said to us. And at the bottom is the galaxies and space and the universe, which is where he always said consciousness is with the Creator. These are the books Phillison worked on with him. All I did was proofread some stuff. That's it. Wisdom Category, Reality Box, Secrets of Power 1 and Secrets of Power 2. And The Hidden Human Consciousness was never finished, but was a really good book. And I think we still have the papers of it, but it was really good. We were reading it, but then he had a lot of things happen to him. He fell down, broke his leg on a sidewalk, and had a metal rod put in it. We bought walking things you put on your feet with weights so he could walk up the stairs and gain strength in his muscles. Well, that made him very depressed. That kind of stopped him from doing some artwork. And some of the paintings you'll see, when we've met him, they were unfinished. And then, he was working on them still. And then he completed book 2. That one is called Feminine Rising on the book cover. And we watched him paint that. That's a big painting. Almost as big as this tarp in this beautiful galaxy. They don't notice they're not saying feet or inches by the thing, but that wasn't done yet because Phyllis and they were working on the book together, and he died, and his family didn't want Phyllis to complete the book, so the information for the inches and feet were never put in yet. But this is a huge painting, and this is almost life-size when you think about it, Pookie, right? That's pretty. I think it's a little bigger. Because the face used to be about this big. And here's Inga working. You saw him working? It's like Lightbringer? Yes. Lightbringer. This is the last painting we watched him paint. And the stripes he creates on those things are made with little thin tapes that he would put on. He'd paint the backgrounds first, and he told me, I'll put the tapes on to be the guiding lines that he wants for the light, to be the idea. Whatever it is, when you see these lines, they're all made with this really thin tape, and he puts it on, and after he does the gesso background, or whatever he's painted the background, you can see the blue. So he's done that, then he places the tape, he said, and then he does the rest of the painting around it, and at the end, almost when he's done, he starts peeling the tape off slowly. And it comes off, so you have the perfect stripes like that. He was detailed, meticulous detail. Notice the galaxies in the Lightbringer's legs.
Yeah.
And the little, he calls those little phoenix birds on the two things there. They were fantasy birds being created. This is Blessed Mother. This one is also called Mary of the Apocalypse on the book. But this is the other name they have for it. And there's all the Blue Kachina prophecies, all these prophecies about the meteor, or the, as they say, comet, but a meteorite that could come and hit the Earth. And I always look, he has his spaceships up there on the top left of the picture. This is a cosmic egg sketch, the cosmic egg drawing, and you see how detailed he is even in his sketches. And that picture wasn't really gigantic either, that one. It was like a painting like this, 3 by 2 or something. This was beautiful, Cosmic Egg 2, with the awakening of the consciousness again with the egg, and its spaceships in the back. Existence 1, I guess, or the sketch for Existence, this painting. 50 by 90 inches. Another triptych. And there's all the stripes. Imagine all that tape that he was doing. Huh? All the taping he did. Existence 75. And then what's the next one? 19 what? Existence 1970. Oh, blank. One. Yeah.
Just to give the schematic again. See how
Talk louder. Phyllis is doing schematics. And that one is an amazing painting. This one is really beautiful. Cosmic Intelligence. His famous spaceships, formations in the back, as usual. And his beautiful galaxies, the way he creates these amazing galaxies with the light is outstanding. And we never saw that one in life, right? We didn't see that one.
that was in the museum.
That was hanging on the wall, right? Oh, right, before Lightbringer. Okay. He hung Lightbringer up and took other ones down. This one was called Geode, and that was one of my favorites because I love geodes. And I don't think that was a giant painting, again, 2 by something. It's beautiful. Now, here's Ingo's favorite drinks, which I used to have to make for him and bring the stuff. So I thought we can have an Ingo toast someday. That'd be so cool, right? She said, Mark, yeah, Ingo was gay, but bisexual when he was young because he thought he was straight, but he wasn't sure. So he dated a girl, and he was very in love with her. This is a story from Ingo. And one day, I guess he realized he's not really totally heterosexual. So he says they were friends, but that was it. They broke up, but they were totally close. He said, I was going to marry her and start a family. That's how close they were. Vodka on ice with club soda. And it's vodka, his favorite, Luxlovia. And it was a beautiful bottle, a little clear bottle. So he said, okay, Mark, fill the glass of 8-ounce glass halfway with ice. This is his way of speaking. Fill with the vodka, 1/3 of the rest with club soda. So I go in the kitchen and make it because he was recouping with his leg. And I'm going, you have to remember it all. Kind of repeat it back. Repeat it. So I did it. So he was like, I need another one. So I had to go make another one. Then his other favorite was Dubonnet. Everything was always at 4 p.m. It was like a tea time. It was 4 p.m. So it's time. Do you want to come over? You're going to have some Dubonnet? Okay, because we don't drink when we sure. It was good. And he says, well, can you pick me up some? He was cute. Dubonnet, half ice or half club soda? 8-ounce glass. Dubonnet, halfway, and the rest could be either all ice or the club soda. And then he got bit by a spider, and that wrecked him up pretty bad. On his left leg, I think he said it happened when he was asleep. He got bit on his foot somewhere, and he was in the hospital. Could have been a brown recluse, we don't know. Because he had a strange house that things could be there. It was scary.
It was old.
It was old, brown, ancient. And the floorboard had a hole. I said, Ingo, are you going to put something over there? I mean, there could be a rat in there. He said, something in the chair? Chair would sink. Anyway, it was an old chair. So he died he was born September 14th, 1933. Died January 31st, 2013. And he's now in space. I think is this the end? Kind of?
Yeah, I just threw it together last night.
Yeah, we did this fast, but what I was going to do is ad lib on some of the
One
books.
of the things I think we should mention is he had a website, but he did not have an internet connection ever.
That's what we're going to ad lib
You're
on.
going to
Yeah.
tell them about that because I
Yeah.
think that's hilarious.
Ingo.
Mark, if I may, and Phyllis,
Yeah.
are these all the slides? That's it for the slides?
And now I was going to show.
There's more?
I'm just going to.
There's more.
Oh, there's more, okay.
There's more. Sit down.
No, what I'm saying is that when the slides are finished, I want to change the seats so that we can do a Q&A.
Oh.
That was my point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all that.
No slap on the aliens. Oh.
It's all that.
Okay.
Okay, so Ingo, when we first met, and he recognized me, I've always known Ingo since I was little. When I saw his pictures, I knew him, but I didn't know who he was. Then as time got on, in 1970 or something, I got one of these magazines, like a science mag, and I can't find it because I hid it that well. But he knew about it. He was on the cover with one of his paintings. And I said to my father, one day. I said, see that guy? I said, yeah, I know him in space. And see that painting he did? He sees like I do. We go out of body all the time. He's painting spaceships. That's a spaceship you're watching from behind glass. He says, really? I said, yeah. I said, you know what? He goes, what? I'm going to meet him someday. He says, that's nice. Where does he live? I don't know. But they always guide me. Same thing happened to me at Betty Hill when I was a little kid. I was sitting on his lap, and he was laughing. He was reading to me the story of Betty Hill in 1960, whatever. She had been abducted with her husband. And he's reading the story. And I went, that's true. He says, well, they say it's true. I said, I'm going to meet her someday. That's nice. You know. They did. And we became friends for a couple of years. I'm sorry about that. And we went to stay with her for a week, and we had some incredible spaceship sightings. Now with Ingo, he didn't have a computer hookup. He only had a computer to type on. He did not have any way you can reach him. No internet connection because he didn't want the government to know everything he's doing. His phone was just what do you call it? Private number. Yeah, unlisted. You couldn't get to him, so he gave us the number and he says, "Do not give this out to anybody. You tell me first if there's somebody." I said, "Don't worry." He says, "I can't trust people." You can trust me. He says, "All right, I know I can trust you," because he could, because we were family. So whenever somebody wanted to meet him, I would contact him and let him know, somebody wants to meet you named so-and-so. Okay, tell him no. Oh, I don't want to meet anybody. I said, well, they say they think they've met you before. They met you before? Well, what's your name? So I give them the name. I don't know them. They're making it up. And they could have been. Because people would say, oh, I met him. And he was like, no. Or I was at his house and you go, uh-huh. Very few people came to his house. If we were doing an interview. So if I asked him long enough, for years, I finally got him to meet James Carmen. That's how it took a long time. It took 3 years before he allowed James to come. Anyway, so that's how Ingo was, very private. So when the spider bit him and he was in the hospital, he had been really in pain. He suffered a lot with that. And that's when he kind of stopped. I think that's when we noticed he wasn't doing paintings anymore. It was like he was losing it. He was getting tired. And we thought he was getting depressed. And I think that's when Phyllis and I we'd stay with him. We'd just be in his kitchen with Methuselah, his giant snake plant. In the kitchen, this thing was 8 feet high. Methuselah he had since he was a baby. And he would always try to see Phyllis and I. We'd like to take Methuselah home. And I'm like, I wouldn't know how to get that out of here. It's a giant thing. And somebody actually got the plant nearby, where they got it to him when he passed away. Here's the 3 UFOs that we took over Ingo's, what's that, his apartment. It was like around the block, on his block, around his house. And we filmed them morphing, because of course I hear them. They call me and I look up. And this was my birthday back in 2012. And we were coming down, he wanted us to come down, and he was going to take us out. So they appeared as little tiny spheres. Then they morphed into these things. And you see these dots that are showing up on those. Those are not threads, they're not balloons, because I have binoculars. Those are plasma shoots, and they do that with their energies as reflectors to show us where they are. So at one point you can lose them in the sky because they're very fine. And I would tell them, and Diane's witnessed it with us, I'd say, shoot some shine, do it right now so we can see where we move the binoculars, and then you see them, so they reflect. And they were reflecting there for that purpose. Then they moved around, then they shifted here. And all this time they're sitting in one spot. And they finally did the 3 in a row at the bottom with their morphing that they do. And then flashed off. That was it. So we showed it to Ingo, and Ingo, this is what she did. There they are. And he got all teared up because he loves them. And he hadn't been able to go out of the house a lot at all, right? Because he couldn't walk too well. And so when we walked with him, we couldn't go very far, except to the corner where his house was. It was a corner restaurant. That's as far as we can get to go. We used to go a couple blocks to his favorite Chinese restaurants and things. and then
So
we
for
couldn't.
people that don't know Mark, I mean,
I mean, that's warbled, but that's me when I'm out of body or in my other form. And you have different color hair, whatever we want to do. So this is me, even though it's quite out of whack. This is me. What Ingo said, I see you right there. That's you. I just go out with him. Now, what he found interesting with our first encounter together was after he said all this and was correct about everything, and I said, no other person knows this except Phyllis, anything about how I got in, because that was a secret I was keeping. So people who were psychics, who like to play psychic with me, could never read me. And they'd say, oh, you this and you that. No, they were always wrong. So I also had an energy that would I project where psychics can't read. And the psychic friend, a psychic that was a friend of another person we know, he said it was in Jersey, was trying to tune into you, to me. And he said when she said, oh, I'm tuning into Sarah, that's meaning me, that's me. And she said, as soon as I did that, I got hit with this white flash, like a shield of light, and saying, no, energy going, nope. And she says, I couldn't break through that shield. Well, that's what we do, we put a shield. That's how you protect yourself on high realms anyway. No one can just read your mind unless you like your friends. So we have friends and family, or we consider family on the high realms. And people say, well, if everybody's telepathic, aren't they all just in your head? No, because you have an auto shield that you have up there. And your friends or close friends, they can communicate to you, you let them in. It's like that quick. It's like an answering machine in the sense of, I'm coming through. So that's how they communicate with me. And they gave me fixed me in the back of my head, everybody doesn't know, back in the early 70s, 1972. So that moment I was able to have clear talk with them and speech with them and open channel more. I was always remote viewing, although that was not what I called it as a child. It's out of body or soul projection. And I told Ingo, I said, remote viewing, Ingo, it's just conscious traveling. We're traveling and you're here. You know you're sitting there, but you're traveling. He says, yes. So it's all it is, but I was doing it since I was a kid. So what also got Ingo interested in my story with him, with that day we met, is that Ingo, you've been to the moon too. I know you have, right? And I didn't know his story yet, all of it. And he says, yeah. And I said, well, I've been there too as a little kid. I've been there from before I came to Earth, from other times. I said, you know it's fake, don't you? He says, well, I know there's people on it. And I said, yeah, it's a spaceship. The moon is a fake. It's just an old antique, what are you going to call this thing? An old core of an old planet from another galaxy area, or another solar system, not galaxy, solar system. And they brought it in when the giant planet blew up in the solar system, our solar system now. So I told my dad that when I was 4 years old. I said, that giant planet, he said to me, how many planets are in our system? And I said, how many do you think you have? He said, 9. And I'm like, I'm 4 years old. Well, you're missing some, there's 12, and I'm including the one that blew up, between the big planet and that other little planet. And he says, the asteroid belt? I said, no. So we had a big planet there, but as soon as that one blew up, caused by the people who lived on it, we had to, meaning space people, we had to get a balancer in for the solar system, because the solar systems are balanced with the stars. So they brought that moon in, which was a disguised moon, like Phobos and Deimos on Mars are disguised, and a couple of moons around Jupiter and Saturn too. So there's bases inside them. And so they set the moon to that pattern that it is, so it's steady, it doesn't rotate. It's anchored with a frequency to the planet. And it's a base inside. And I said to him, when I was a little kid, I was 5 years old, I went out of body to the moon inside and was looking around. Now, when I go out of body, I'm not 5 years old. When I go out of body, I'm like a 20-year-old or something, or you think, I don't know. So I'm walking around in the moon inside, looking at the scientists. Now, Ingo said there were some people doing things naked. I didn't see any of that, but they were wearing very tight spacesuits. So that could be an impression you would see if there is a group doing that somewhere, another kind of beings that are humanoid looking. There was humanoid people that resembled humans, and there was beings that don't resemble humans, and there was humans, like humans. Now, a lot of space people are human. They're from those different places. But they're Earth has a lot of human here, but they rescued some from ancient times, during the Atlantean times when things were going down, like can happen here again. And rescued some. Some went to space. Some came back to the Earth and came back to repopulate again after things got fixed up on the planet. And that ancient technology is showing up all the time, and they don't know what it is. The giant steps. Ingo knew this too, because we used to talk about that.
He also used, because Mark could see into the elemental kingdom, fairies and elves and stuff, and he told us a story one day about
the elf?
The 5-foot elf?
Yeah, the elf. He said he was upstairs. He had a brownstone. Basement was the studio and a hangout area, a big table for parties. Then he had people renting, and then he had the top floor as his main apartment. And he also had access to the roof, he said, too, because when 9/11 happened, he was up there with chairs, drinking his Dubonnet, waiting for the bombs to hit. He felt it was the end of the world. He was going to watch it go down.
Yeah,
But
he thought it was the end.
he thought it was the end. So that he was watching it go. He was on his bed, and he had a living room area, and then he had a bed. And he seemed to have that canopy thing that he could pull around at times that people have. He was sitting there reading a book, and he has windows open on the top of the floor. And he says he sees some light coming in and movement on the window, and he was like, it's like he thought there was no balcony there, so how would someone get in? But he was like, what the heck, And he watched an elf come into the window, and come walk over to him, climb up on his bed, and sit on the bedpost on top of the headboard, and just sit looking at him. And Ingo said, hello, so the elf and him talked for about what? I don't even remember what he said. Or did they just have a vibe of knowing? It was something like he just knew, and the elf was fun. The elves are fun.
The other thing
Kidding around.
that Dino told us,
And then he went
said
out.
that in the early days when he came to New York, he was so open spiritually at the time that he would be walking down the street and he would be seeing dead people that looked like they were alive. And it was so disconcerting to not know whether the person was a dead person or a live person, and he finally figured out how to shut that down so he didn't have to see all of those discarnate spirits.
Yeah, because they seemed to look at him. And he said, I was walking down in the village area, and a guy was walking towards him, and he kind of looked like a hippie. And he said, the guy's looking at him like he sees him, and he's like, all right. So he walked by, and he got a weird vibe when he walked by. So he turned around. There was no one there. And that's when he said that was a soul, a person's spirit level. So he's like, uh-oh. So he knew he was seeing that. And that's when he started to watch as people were walking around. Other people were walking around with him. And he was trying to figure out, maybe that's somebody's guide, maybe that's somebody's dead friend, who's who. Because they seem to not project the same energy as your aura, but they did have their own energy, like a spirit.
But he had to consciously kind of
He had to shut down. And I actually had experience like that in Florida in 1976, where I saw physical guides walk through a wall to some waitresses. I was just at a hotel,
Okay, I just want to get to this.
and I thought they were humans, walking in.
Recently, I became obsessed with this site, suspiciousobservers.org. Has anybody heard about it? Everybody heard about it? And then also magneticreversal.org. And I couldn't understand why did I become so. And I even actually bought a subscription, which I don't normally do. It's $30 for the year, so I could get all the inside information. And I was yelling out to Mark one night 2 weeks ago. I said, why am I so obsessed with this? Why did I actually buy a membership? And Mark said,
Well, Ingo, talking to our friends and crew on the other side, because he's part of the crew, his over part is part of our friends and family crew, because we're all working together. And so he communicated to her higher over part and said he's going to guide her to find this. And so it was basically Ingo that guided Phyllis to push the button on that, whatever that was that way. And because he's totally into this, this is Ingo. He's a biologist. He was always into astronomy and astrology and everything. And so he loves space, and that's where he was heading. He always told me, and Phil said, "Oh, I'm not hanging." He says, "I might come back." He would say, "Oh, I'll probably be back, reincarnate. But when he leaves, I'm going to space." So that's where we see him. And the first night when he died, the next day, he shows up to me in a vision, and he says, "Look at me. I'm in my space suit." And he was like 30 years old. So suspiciousobservers.org is really good, magnetic.
I would just suggest you all start following it.
Yeah, this is truth. The thing is what's going on planet Earth, and Ingo knew this, because we talked to him about this stuff, about end times and everything. We say, "Ingo, is it as bad as we think?" He says, "It's worse." Ingo, are they as bad as they are? They're worse, and you know what they are. Everybody out there knows who those higher people are that are doing things on planet Earth, the children and everything. It's worse. He saw it. He says it was so disgusting what he was seeing, he couldn't handle it. So he basically, when he was getting sick and everything, he just stayed in the house, handling people's energy outside, walking through the energy. He was getting a lot. So he would go out once a day, people walk to that restaurant to have his little soda.
He had a fabulous life. He actually,
Yeah.
he's people in Hollywood, they adored him.
He's friends with Kreshkin, the amazing Kreshkin. He was close friends with him. John Keel was our friend from the 1980s when we knew John Keel would a block away or two from us. And Ingo, when John died, Ingo, he was like, they were very close. And you know John Keel with the Mothman. And he used to come to our parties. John was fun. He was a nice guy. And no matter when I went outside to take a walk, I was heading to Broadway or wherever. We're on Central Park, between Columbus and Central Park. I knew I was going to see John today. I was like, okay, I'm going to trick this. I'm going to do a different road. So I go down another road, like 82nd Street, and there's John walking in front of me. So I was always seeing John when I went on Broadway.
Okay, so do you have any questions?
Yes.
Hang on, guys. We're going to stop a second. Okay, is this all the slides, yes or no?
Is that all the slides?
There could be more slides. Wait, hold it. Are there more slides that you want to show before we do a Q&A? Because I want to give you a better view.
You want Ashtar's spaceship for a
Do you
second?
have any more slides you want to show?
There are
See here?
Okay, you want to show some more?
Well, just that let you know where Ingo and I meet, as on the ship over America on the left side. And these are the ships under the direction of Ashtar, who is under the direction of Sinander, who is known as Yehoshua on the planet Earth, who is the
Alpha and Omega.
Yes, creator of the universe. So these spaceships are like 2,000 miles long in length, and many work through different dimensions, 4th to 7th, and some higher. We can get to them on the 10th as well. So in case of global disasters on this planet, on the physical planets, like in Atlantean times, and there was 2 types of Atlantean times, which we speak of in our lectures, but let's say the last one, 50,000, 30,000 years ago or so. These ships can teleport people on, but they can't teleport everybody. Those that are spiritual with their energy focused on higher frequency or higher mindedness, let's creator, and not killing, not hurting or torturing anything. Those are the ones that are seen. And when I'm on the ships with them, I've seen the picture of America, let's say, and the lights all on it, like pin dots. And you'll see the pin dots are the souls, the people. And then you zoom in, and they have a way of doing that easily. And you see there's the gray shadow, purple, brown, or dark brown, chocolate color dots as well. And those are people totally into dense stuff, pornography, making money, stepping on people to get to the top, that kind of mental, no, atheists, everything. They're down in that color zone. Who's glowing are the golden, white, the lavenders, and silver, and pink light colors like pink and love. Those are the ones that are seen. And the first that come up, we'll be looking for will be the white that are glowing with gold. Then the white, then the silvery whites, then it goes like that. So that's how they see who gets taken first on the ships. It's because your frequency is acclimated to be pulled up now. Otherwise, they have to come down, land, scan everybody, work around their energy, and then get what they're about. If they're into pornography, hurting children and animals of any kind, if they're into anything with low vibration thought frequency, they're not going on. And if you remember the movie Knowing, remember how people didn't go? That was kind of what kind of happens.
I think that's probably, let's
Yeah.
go back to I just leave this here for a second in case you say something and drag a picture out.
Let's see, what
Any
else?
questions?
We have so
Yes.
many weird things that happen at Ingo Bingo.
Are there more slides, yes or no?
Well, there could be, so I won't know what the question gets asked.
Half an hour. So, Mark and Phyllis, oh, Betty, please. I need your attention, okay? We could continue with what you're doing, and then we could do a part 2 on the 2nd of next month.
All right.
And you wouldn't have to rush. I don't want to rush you. So you decide
I'm not
what
rushing.
you want to do.
No, I mean-
Do you want to keep the slides going?
Can I talk about the girl that you saw in California that was so funny?
I mean, it's incredible stuff, so.
I know.
you don't wanna-
I was hoping we were going to do the ad-libbing behind the things that he talked to us about when we delved into it. You know, like the girl.
You have a picture of it?
No, he said the funniest thing he was describing is he said, she was so gorgeous, I'd go straight for her. She had long hair. She was wearing short shorts. She was wearing a halter. And she had the perfect body at 6 feet tall and more. And the space people are usually over 6 feet. The girls could be 6 feet and up. Guys could be 6 and 7. So if you see these tall people or walking in Hollywood areas, the only reason they get in those areas is because people will think that they're actors or models. But they work with the government too, some of them. But like this girl, she was just an observer. She was there to, they get apartments, they get an ID and everything from the government, the hidden government, the secret government, the ones that work. So they have everything they need, and it's like exchange student, They're here visiting, they're here living. So she's walking around like that. And he said the first thing that hit him was that she was too perfect. She was just perfect. And he was like, and he said everybody's staring at her, but not staring at her. So she's looking through vegetables, only eating fruit. And he was 4.5 feet from her, he said. He was purposely looking through things just to look at her. And then he was just looking at her. Then he got to the other side of the table of this fruit, and he was like here going now to see her front face and everything. He says like she was built, and he's going, she's built, man. So now he says he's looking, and then that's when he got the weird vibe. Then he looks over to the left, and there's the twin, one of the twins standing over by the wall over there in the entrance. And he says he went over to walk to the twin guy, and he says, "What are you doing here? Are you following me? We're not doing that anymore." What? He says, "No, we're not here for you. We're here for her." And he says, "Oh, I knew she was different." He says, "Yeah, she's neat." The guy says, "She's restaurant." And we watched her. We're watching her. And then he says to Ingo, "Don't try to telepathically say anything to her, and don't look at her eyes, because they could read you right away. And we don't want her reading you, because they can do things to you."
May we ask questions, please?
Yeah, that was the joke
before
about
you
that
do
one.
I want
The
people
girl.
to feel comfortable, so if the slides are over, put the lights on and mark them back here.
Yep.
Where you can be heard better. Okay, put the lights on, please. Then you hang on for a second, okay, please.
This is why Mark and I are together.
Guys, why don't you take your chairs if you want to come over
Mark
here
was
better.
visiting him.
Unless you're okay there?
Because
You all right?
of,
You comfortable? All right.
ET, the extraterrestrial, they were looking all over the country for an ET, a person who had a positive
Hey,
experience
the
with an
mic is okay there.
extraterrestrial.
You're all right?
And Tim had met Mark, so he
Okay.
called him
And
and
Carol,
to me with
you're
the-
part of this too, so if you can just take the chair there also. Okay, recording now, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, what we want to do now is we want to do a Q&A with Carole, Mark.